You're watching Truth Cherry. Like, comment, subscribe. Twitter Files. Part 11. How Twitter let the intelligence community in. In August 2017, when Facebook decided to suspend 300 accounts with suspected Russian origin, Twitter wasn't worried. Its leaders were sure they didn't have a Russia problem. We did not see a big correlation. No larger patterns. Facebook may take action on hundreds of accounts, and we may take action on 25. With Facebook on this effort, we can do that. We'll just want to be careful about expectations. Facebook may take action on hundreds of accounts, and we may take action on 25. We can add Yoel for more detail. In this email from Colin Crowell, he writes, "Now that the story is out, it seems like the focus is on the purchasing of 100K of Facebook ads by these Russian accounts. Understanding that we did not see a big correlation on our platform that Facebook found on theirs, have we run the analysis of whether the accounts we did have purchased Twitter-promoted products?" In this email from Vijaya, she writes, "Yes, we are in contact with Facebook and did get this list. I was on an initial call with Facebook along with name redacted from my team. I'll let name redacted summarize test findings, but the high level is that we see multi-account violations, but no larger patterns or items per our TOS. Keep the focus on Facebook." Twitter was so sure they had no Russia problem, execs agreed the best PR strategy was to say nothing on record and quietly hurl reporters our Facebook. Per discussion with Policy Comms does not recommend issuing an on-the-record statement for the following reasons. 1. We can be more candid pushing the book back to Facebook on background. 2. Issuing a statement brings us closer to Facebook, their vulnerabilities on this issue, and the follow-up stories on Russia. We are working on reactive comms strategy. Our initial sense is nothing, or at most, a sentence on the record, so we keep the focus on Facebook. Primary work will be off the record and background. Working as fast as we can given the short notice, but we'll try share material ASAP. Twitter is not the focus of inquiry into foreign meddlings right now, the spotlight is on Facebook. Wrote Public Policy VP Colin Crowell. In this communication, Colin Crowell writes, "Hello all. FYI, that I'm going to schedule time this group to discuss foreign meddlings and implications for Twitter. The Facebook announcement today is going to draw us into conversations with Congress on this, and we need to duly assess what we know and be responsive to inquiries from Capitol Hill. We are due to see the Democratic staff of the Senate Intelligence Committee, i.e., Senator Mark Warner, Democrat Virginia staff, at the end of September on this topic. This will be a non-public, private meeting. Also, Rep. Schiff, Democrat California, of House Intel Committee has put out a statement this evening, pasted below, indicating that he'll be looking for answers from other platforms on the Russian-related issues that Facebook disclosed today. Important context, Twitter is not the focus of inquiry into foreign meddling right now, the spotlight is on Facebook, because Facebook has better targeting ability than we have for campaign-related advertising, and because the Trump campaign spent massively on Facebook during the campaign compared to what they spent with us. For congressional investigators, the core issue here isn't that the foreign actors tried to use social media to influence the outcome, but rather, 1. How did they obtain relevant information for their targeting strategy, DNC hack? And 2. Was there any direct or indirect coordination with the Trump campaign? In September 2017, after a cursory review, Twitter informed the Senate it suspended 22 possible foreign accounts and 179 others with possible links to those accounts. Amid a larger set of roughly 2,700 suspects manually examined. Receiving these meager results, a furious Senator Mark Warner of Virginia, ranking Democrat on the Intelligence Committee, held an immediate press conference to denounce Twitter's report as frankly inadequate on every level. In this headline on a Reuters story, Twitter briefing to U.S. congressional investigators disappointing, per Senator Mark Warner. And this headline, says Senator blasts Twitter, presentation on Russia influence was inadequate on every level. #irony, mused Crowell, the day after Warner's presser. After receiving an e-circular from Warner's re-election campaign, asking for $5 or whatever you can spare. Laugh out loud, replied General Counsel Sean Edgett. Here is that communication between Colin Crowell and Sean Edgett regarding the email asking for donations from Warner's campaign. Keep producing material. After meeting with congressional leaders, Crowell wrote, Warner has political incentive to keep this issue at top of the news, maintain pressure on us and rest of industry to keep producing material for them. And this email from Colin Crowell to Jack Dorsey. Here's a little more background. Yes, only Senator Warner, the ranking Democrat on Senate Intel, commented. The Intel Committee Chairman Burr, Republican for North Carolina, declined comment and no other senators commented. Warner has been most vocal about the need for public hearings with social media companies and took Facebook to task a couple of weeks back, leading them to ultimately agree to disclose the ads they found associated with alleged foreign interference. Dynamic during our 2-hour closed-door meeting with Senate staff investigators was more cordial and less contentious than senators' comments reflected. We got some tough questions, but we're working in collaborative spirit and pledged to circle back with more information based on their queries. On the House side, Intel Committee ranking Democrat Adam Schiff was the only one who commented. His statement more balanced, thanking us for cooperation and looking forward to ongoing work together, but he also said we had more to do to investigate what happened in 2016 and said we had significant work to do to understand the depth and breadth of foreign activity during the campaign. We knew going in that our biggest vulnerability was that our teams are addressing and solving the malicious bot misinformation problems of 2017 and beyond. But Warner and the Intel committees are singularly focused on what transpired in 2016. And we simply don't have a lot of data or conclusions to share with them on that front currently. Warner has political incentive to keep this issue at the top of the news, maintain pressure on us and rest of industry to keep producing material for them, and generate interest for the November 1st hearing that is planned. Democrats also taking cues from Hillary Clinton, who in her What Happened book tour is pointedly talking about role of foreign propaganda and dirty tricks that were pushed through social media had in her demise. She specifically has called out Facebook and other social media for not doing enough to address state-sponsored mischief in the campaign. We're also getting hurt by third-party academics and researchers who tap our API to pull together flawed reports, painting the bot, foreign troll problem as a significant presence on Twitter. They also claim to monitor these foreign networks on Twitter and then report on their activities. It was evident in the room with staff investigators that these researchers had already briefed the committees and asserted Twitter is a major problem. These studies are also cited in recent media stories. Taking cues from Hillary Clinton, Crowell added Dems were taking cues from Hillary Clinton, who that week said, it's time for Twitter to stop dragging its heels and live up to the fact that its platform is being used as a tool for cyber warfare. In this headline in the Mercury News, Hillary Clinton accuses Facebook, Twitter, and Google of enabling Russian agents. In growing anxiety over its PR problems, Twitter formed a Russia task force to proactively self-investigate. In this communication from Carlos Monje, titled Russia Task Group, he writes, Team, thanks for being drafted to the Russia Task Force. For the next month, this team will be focused on 1. Conducting a more fulsome retro of the 2018 election. 2. Preparing for open congressional hearings at the end of the month. 3. Telling Twitter's story publicly, including robust outreach to outside researchers, reporters, and members of Congress. 4. Evaluating whether policy changes are needed. I will reach out to teams to set up initial scoping meetings in the next couple of days. In the meantime, I am sharing access to a working folder that includes some of the big questions we are trying to answer, as well as a full team roster. Thanks very much, Carlos. The Russia Task Force started mainly with data shared from counterparts at Facebook, centered around accounts supposedly tied to Russia's Internet Research Agency. But the search for Russia perfidy was a dud. October 13, 2017. No evidence of a coordinated approach. All of the accounts found seem to be lone wolf-type activity, different timing, spend, targeting, less than 10K in ad spend. October 18, 2017. First round of RU investigation, 15 high-risk accounts, 3 of which have connections with Russia, although 2 are RT. October 20, 2017. built new version of the model that is lower precision but higher recall, which allows to catch more items. We aren't seeing substantially more suspicious accounts. We expect to find less than 20 with a small amount of spend. October 23, 2017. Finished with investigation, 2,500 full manual account reviews. We think this is exhaustive. 32 suspicious accounts and only 17 of those are connected with Russia. Only 2 of those have significant spend, one of which is Russia Today, remaining less than 10K in spend. Twitter's search finding only 2 significant accounts, one of which is Russia Today, was based on the same data that later inspired panic headlines like Russian influence reached 126 million through Facebook alone. The failure of the RTF to produce material worsened the company's PR crisis. In the weeks after Warner's presser, a torrent of stories sourced to the Intel Committee poured into the news, an example being Politico's October 13 headline, Twitter deleted data potentially crucial to Russia probes. Were Twitter a contractor for the FSB, they could not have built a more effective disinformation platform, Johns Hopkins professor and Intel Committee expert Thomas Rid told Politico. As Congress threatened costly legislation, and Twitter was subject to more bad press fueled by the committees, the company changed its tune about the smallness of its Russia problem. Hi guys, just passing along for awareness the write-up here from Washington Post today on potential legislation or new FEC regulations that may affect our political advertising, wrote Crowell. Here's that email. Crowell writes, Hi guys, just passing along for awareness the write-up here from the Washington Post today on potential legislation or new FEC regulations that may affect our political advertising. This echoes the comments in our Senate Intel Prep Q and a doc and our need to show a willingness to make some moves here ourselves. We will engage as necessary on this in D.C. as proposals are developed. And any new FEC regs or legislations will likely take some time to effectuate, but I wanted you guys to have the context of how Facebook's recent announcements are ginning things up here in town. Colin. Headline from Washington Post reads, Facebook, Google, and Twitter face proposed bill targeting shadowy political ads. Democratic lawmakers are pushing for new legislation that would require greater disclosure of political ads that run on internet platforms, despite a pledge by Facebook chief executive Mark Zuckerberg that the company will voluntarily pull back the curtain on political advertising on the social network. In Washington, weeks after the first briefing, Twitter leaders were told by Senate staff that Senator Warner feels like tech industry was in denial for months. Added an Intel staffer, big interest in Politico article about deleted accounts. Twitter pledged to work with them on their desire to legislate. Knowing that our ads policy and product changes are an effort to anticipate congressional oversight, I wanted to share some relevant highlights of the legislation. Senators Warner, Klobuchar, and McCain will be introducing, wrote Policy Director Carlos Monje, soon after. In this email, Carlos Monje writes about the proposed legislation called the Honest Act. Extends to paid digital advertisements the FEC requirements that apply to broadcast, radio, and print ads. Adds political matters of public importance, including national legislative issues of public importance, to the list of issues for which the FEC would require enhanced political disclosure, in addition to ads that mention candidates directly. The committees appear to have leaked, even as Twitter prepared to change its ads policy and remove RT and Sputnik to placate Washington. Congress turned the heat up more, apparently leaking the larger, base list of 2,700 accounts. In this communication to Twitter execs and many others, Carlos Monje writes, will do on House Intel. The committees appear to have leaked the account names, based on reporting of experts combing through the list and revealing new info, like on Brexit. Reporters from all over started to call Twitter about foreign links. BuzzFeed, working with the University of Sheffield, claimed to find a new network on Twitter that had close connections to Russian-linked bot accounts. It will only embolden them. Twitter internally did not want to endorse the BuzzFeed Sheffield findings. Yoel writes, these are definitely bad accounts, and based on their phone carriers, they have signs of being connected to Russia. Once we've settled on a press strategy, we can and should suspend them all. But they almost all were principally active in German, and a while before that, some were active in English around Brexit, rather than related to the U.S. election, and there's no especially clear sign that they're necessarily IRA-linked. I think we need to get at their questions by emphasizing the limited scope of the 2,700 accounts we specifically identified to Congress in the context of IRA accounts involved in the U.S. We also reported to Congress on thousands more Russia-linked accounts which we couldn't deterministically say were IRA-linked, and therefore, in the interest of protecting the privacy of users until we're very confident they're IRA-linked bad actors, we didn't disclose all the handles we found as part of our review. Yoel. In these excerpts we see the discussion around questioning reporters might backfire on Twitter. Senate Intel Committee is asking possible to whip something together? Still, when the BuzzFeed piece came out, the Senate asked for a write-up of what happened. Twitter was soon apologizing for the same accounts they'd initially told the Senate were not a problem. Reporters now know this is a model that works. This cycle threatened legislation, wedded to scare headlines pushed by congressional intel sources, followed by Twitter caving to moderation asks, would later be formalized in partnerships with federal law enforcement. Twitter soon settled on its future posture. In public, it removed content at our sole discretion. Privately, they would offboard anything identified by the U.S. intelligence community as a state-sponsored entity conducting cyber operations. Here is their internal policies memo stating just that. Twitter let the USIC into its moderation process. It would not leave. Wrote Crowell, in an email to the company's leaders, we will not be reverting to the status quo. For more information on the Twitter files, check at Barry Weiss, at Schellenberger MD, at LH Fang, and at David Z. Wig. You have been watching Truth Cherry. Thank you. Please subscribe.